Hello everybody, AJ Ryzik here. Today we're going to take a look at how to install Arch Linux using the Architect installer. Now, if you are not familiar with Architect, you may have seen uh, my video where I installed Arch Linux using the Architect's predecessor, which was the Evolution project. And here I've got the Architect Linux Google Plus homepage open up for their community, and right here, like it says, this is the community hub for Architect Linux, a user-friendly, powerful, and flexible command line installer for Arch Linux. Originally the Evolution project, Architect is leaner, faster, and more in line with the Arch way. Now, the ISO for Architect has only been out for a week or so, and in that time, I've done installations both in on virtual hardware and on real hardware. Everything seems to be working fine. Um, Installation goes down without a hitch, and it's fairly easy to use. The only, and I don't know if I want to call it a downside, but something to take note of is you don't, as compared to a traditional Arch installation, you don't have to know quite as much about your computer system to do the installation. Now, this is a two-sided, like the two edges of the sword, in that on one hand, the the bulk of the Arch community has always maintained that the point of Arch Linux is you should know every little detail about your computer system, and the installation process is, intentionally difficult so that unless you know everything there is to know about your system, you can't do the installation. And they got a real good point with that. And even if you use Architect to install Arch, I do highly recommend that at least once go back and do a traditional Arch installation, just so that it forces you to learn everything there is to know about your system. Just makes you overall a very knowledgeable person about your particular system. Having said that, a lot of people that I know, they have maintained that using an installer like Architect, like the old Evolution installer, it allows you to get that that installation done, and then gradually over time you can learn about your system that way. And there are merits to that philosophy as well. So I'm not going to debate about which is right or what not, but just something to think about. And going back to what I said just a minute ago, I do recommend that at least once in your lifetime you go and do a traditional Arch installation, because you do you know the you do learn a ton from doing that installation. That being said, though, let's get started with the installation. Let me get this out of the way. And I'm doing this in Gnome boxes. And I've set up a virtual box for this that will be, you can see right here, I got 4.1 gigs of memory for it, 21.5 gigs of disk space. And so let's go ahead and create this. Now, if you're not familiar with GNOME boxes or other virtualization hardware, just a heads up, it does kind of lag as compared to real hardware. So when you see how long certain processes are taking, it doesn't necessarily mean that when you do the installation it's going to take that long. It just, like I said, virtual hardware tends to lag as compared to real hardware. All right, once your network connection is detected, you'll get this little message. Network connection detected, ready to download the latest Architect installation framework from GitHub. Go, and you're going to want to click OK. Allow it to download. Pick your language. English myself. Alright, so we installed or downloaded the latest packages. Now we're going to prepare our installation. Hit enter, set virtual console, and for mine, going down to US. Configure mirror list. This is optional, but it does speed things up for you. So generate list by country. Once again, I'll go to US, generates a mirror list, and there's the mirror list, and we'll do, and that list is fine. So if you hit Control and X, that'll exit out of that mirror list. Then it'll ask you, do you want to use the generated mirror list? Click yes, done. And then you can go and edit that mirror list if you like. This option right here where it says sort mirror list by fastest server, I found that rather than trying to manually edit the mirror list, I think that the sort mirror list by fastest server is the easiest to work with. I'll let it do that. Alright, it's created its list, and you can go and look over the list, but I'll just go and exit out of that, and the sorting is good for me. Go back, list devices, optional. It'll list all of your devices. Obviously, since I'm on virtual hardware here, it's only gonna show one hard drive. On real hardware, it's gonna list all of your drives that are attached. Partition disk. And you can do auto partition. You can use parted CF to, you kind of go through the list there. You see all the different options. I'm just going to do the auto partition for now. Single partition using all available space will be created. If intending to use swap, select swap file option. When mounting, do you wish to continue? Yes. Alright, if you want to do some logical volume management, you can do that. I'm just going to move on to mounting the partitions. And of course, since I've only got one partition, there's only one to mount. But if you went and did have multiple partitions, be sure to make yourself some notes or whatever so you remember which partition is which. So we're going to choose our file system for our partition. I'm going to use ext4. That's probably the best to use. Alright, mount successful. Do you want to use a swap file? If you do, it'll be the same size as your RAM. I'm just going to click none. Okay, we'll do back. Install base. And here you can pick the latest kernel or the LTS kernel, and in addition, for each of those you could select the base development. I always do the latest kernel and base development. Alright, our base is installed, so let's install the bootloader now. We're going to use Grub 2. Alright, install Grub on the same device hard drive as root. Yes, we want that. Alright, Grub is installed, and now install wireless device firmware. So go through the list here and pick which one of these wireless devices you have. and then there's up number 1 here. It'll display what your wireless device is. Or you could just go down and pick all, and it'll install all of those. Alright, so that's installed. Let's go back. Okay, let's configure our base. We're going to need to generate our fstab, and I recommend using the UUID. Really, I don't see any reason to use the other options. Set our host name. I'm just going to stick with the Arch, but you can make it essentially whatever you want. Set our time zone. In my case, we go to America and then down to New York. Set time zone as American New York. Yes. Set our hardware clock. We'll make it, you can either do UTC time or local time. Really, the only time you want to do local time is if you're a dual booter with Windows. Alright, set system locale, and in my case, we have this one right here, ENUS UDF-8. That's going to depend on, what region of the world you're in. Alright, set desktop keyboard layout. And once again, we go to US English, back, configure user accounts. First, we'll set our root password. And then again, to confirm it, add our users. Put the username in there. Make sure this is all lowercase. And give a password for that user. Re-enter the password for that user. And yes, the user password and the root password can be the same. Alright, let's install our desktops. First, we're going to install graphics and sound drivers, that sort of thing. So this is ALSA, Xorg, that sort of thing. So we'll give it a minute to install that. Alright. Is your graphics card ATI? Select yes to install the open source driver. Select no to open the graphics card menu. So you've got a few options here for graphics drivers, and we'll just go take a look at that. Go to no, and you can see there's quite a few options there: AMD, Intel, the NVIDIA open source. Just go and pick whatever category your card falls into. I'm running an AMD card, so we'll go with that. And let's install our desktop environment. And like it says right here, you can go and install multiple desktops if you like. And as you can see, quite a variety that are available. Not every desktop or window manager known to mankind is listed, but the bulk of the more popular ones: Cinnamon, Enlightenment, Gnome, KDE, and as opposed to the older Evolution installer, this is installing KDE 5, whereas the Evolution installed KDE 4. And I did a KDE 5 installation. Everything worked perfectly. Actually, tell you what, we'll do that one, but I'll just kind of scroll through the list so you can see everything that's here. We got LXDE, LXQT, Mate, XFCE, Awesome Window Manager, Fluxbox, i3, Ice Window Manager, OpenBox, PEC Window Manager, Window Maker. So let's go and we'll do KDE 5 and let it do its thing. Okay, that has downloaded. So now install common packages, and as it says there, some environments require common files to be installed, particularly for permissions, creation of home folders, blah 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 blah. Install these packages. Yes. And so we will allow that to install. Okay, next we will install our network connection manager. Now, in the case of Gnome, I know in Gnome and KDE, there might be a couple of the others, but at least in those two, network connection manager has already been installed and enabled. It's because there's one that's included with that desktop environment. But in the case, especially if you're using one of the window managers, you're going to have to pick a network connection manager. All right, install display manager and login screen. And same deal here with both Gnome and KDE are going to install by default their respective display managers. In the case of the others, I believe your options. I'm trying to think. There's a few options. I usually use Light DM. I think it's Light DM is fairly flexible and fairly lightweight on the resources as well. But there's a couple options that are available. All right, so we got that. Install accessibility packages. You can run through the list there and pick any that you want to install them all or none at all, and run. And I can never pronounce this. Mikapinta. I'm not even going to attempt it. But basically, that finalizes your installation. All right, you can go and review your configuration files if you like. Otherwise, you are done. Close installer, yes. Installation process complete, reboot, yes, we will reboot. All right, let's take a look and see what we got. All right, there we are. One thing to watch out for on KDE, and this happened to a few people using the installer for the first time, didn't realize what was going on. Under Session up here at the top, there's an option between Plasma Media Center and Plasma. They didn't notice that and logged into the Plasma Media Center and couldn't figure out what was going on. So if you want your regular KDE desktop, choose Plasma for your session. So let's put in our password here. Hit enter. Allow it to load up. And here we are inside of our KDE desktop, ready to go. Now, essentially on the KDE version, you don't have you don't have the full suite of KDE applications. You're going to need to go and install those yourself. Obviously, depending on what options you selected back in during the installer is going to depend on what you end up at this point. I can tell you from experience on Gnome, if you choose the full Gnome, I think it's called Gnome Plus Extras, it'll not only install the GNOME desktop environment, it will install every official GNOME application there is. So it really loads up the desktop for you, which, if that's what you're looking for, the full GNOME experience, it's a quick way to get there. But anyway, that essentially is how to do the installation. Please leave comments, questions, all that kind of stuff down below, and I will get to it as soon as possible. Also, be sure to check out the Google Plus community page for Architect Linux. I will leave a link for that down below, so you can go and check that out. Good place for questions and comments, all that kind of stuff. Give us a big old thumbs up, thumbs down if you enjoyed the video, and as always, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next video. Thanks a lot.